We play for keeps, Cuddy. You ain't heard about the Huddle fire with no with D-Lane. We tryna get it off the muscle. Walters caught the pick and ran it back without a tussle. Blow the whistle, coach is trying to get back to the huddle.
Welcome to the 510 Huddle. We back again, getting close to the Super Bowl. We might have had the best weekend of football in my 27 years of life. How you doing today, D-Lane?
Hey, feeling great, man. Down to the championship games, the Final Fours. But like you just said, that might have been some of the best football I've ever seen in my life as well. Some not just playoff football, but just football in general. I think somebody said between Josh Allen and Pat alone, it was like 700 and something yards put up, 7 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and both of those QBs led their teams in rushing yards as well. It was just amazing football this past weekend, man. We got to dive into it.
No, I agree. And one of the coolest parts, I think, of this weekend, I saw a stat. If you combine all 4 games, the point differential was 15 points. That's insane. That is insane. So let's kick it off, though, Lane. And we saw the game. We don't need to rehearse, the battles. But let's get to it. It's the Bills and Chiefs, the new Colts and Patriots. What's your thoughts?
I think we talked about this topic a little bit last week. And said that are these two guys like the new Peyton and Tom? Going in, I thought so. It felt like it going in. After that game, afterwards, it's no doubt. It's no doubt. It's no doubt. Like those two are elite. Like they're the head of their class. But what I will say, and we'll talk about another 2 other guys later. Well, one because he's still in the playoffs. Herbert, I believe, is in that discussion talent wise. We shall see. And then if Burrow wins this week, him being already in the championship game alone puts him also in that same class as far as just talented quarterbacks. I remember a few seasons ago, we were all worried about, Peyton, Phillip Rivers, all these great quarterbacks, Tom. We feel like they're at the end of the road. Who's next up? I felt like we only really had Russ like in the 2015, 2014, around that time. I felt like we really only had Russ. I'm trying to think of another young quarterback, but I know for a fact there was discussion on like, hey, who's next?
Yeah,
who's next at the quarterback position to take over? And I believe we got years ahead of us of elite quarterback play.
No, I agree, and I think the quarterback position to me is the most unique position in professional sports because you'll see it like in the NBA, right? Steph Curry, LeBron, first 2 people that come to mind. Not only are they great players, they're championship level players, right? So, if they're on your team, they're going to bring a level of excellence to the team. I think we're starting to see that in the NFL with Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. They're not just excellent talents. They're championship level players where at every moment they're going to uplift everyone around them. Taking Gabriel Davis 4 touchdowns, Josh Allen doing that. And again, we said Pat has amazing, talent around him, but he uplifts his team. And I think it's starting to separate other quarterbacks. And not to get off topic, but I was watching that game thinking, does Aaron Rodgers have this in the bag? And I only asked that question, D-Lane, not to go off topic. And actually, I'll save that one. I got a question for you, Aaron Rodgers. We talk about that Packer game. But this game right here, the quarterback play, all I kept thinking like this is the next level of quarterback. We had the Elways, the Joe Montanas, the Dan Marinos, just excellent, precise passers, big and could move around a little bit. Then we had the era of Peyton and Tom. I'm going to outsmart you before the snap, every play, accurate, consistent. And then we started having just gifted throwers, right? With Aaron Rodgers, Russ, and now it's the gifted throwers to me that are combined with the Peyton, Tom Brady mindset.
I was just about to say, I feel like it's all that combined in one. The new era quarterback, the position has been revolutionized for real. Like as far as you got to be mobile, you got to be able to throw on the run, left and right for the most part. You got to be able to spin it either way. RPOs, man, it's the quarterback play today is different. It's night and day different. I was just watching the NFC Championship games between the Cowboys and the Niners the last few weeks from the 90s. love Troy Aikman, love Steve Young, Hall of Fame quarterbacks. When I sit down and watch Josh Allen and Peyton and Pat Mahomes, we can't even just say Josh Allen because he's not as decorated achievements wise as Pat. Let's just say Josh Allen. When I sit down and watch that game Josh Allen just plays at, I believe that's a better talent wise. He's better than Steve Young and Troy Aikman. As far as what your eye shows you on paper,
without question,
when you're watching it, exactly. So that's what I was saying that to say. That's how you know the game has just evolved, and that position has changed. Like it's crazy, man. I love the talent. I love watching these young quarterbacks battle it out.
Yeah, I can't wait to see more of these battles. Obviously, to keep for a real battle, Josh is gonna have to win one of these. And I think someone said it best. If they had beat Jacksonville, the Bills would have had home field advantage.
Facts. Last point on this game, Zay. I love Leslie Frazier, the DC for the Bills. I love him.
Whoa, hold on. We have a whole segment dedicated to the DCs this weekend.
Okay, my bad. I did see that. Okay, go ahead.
I got something to say for that too.
Go ahead.
Last point on this game. We're gonna move on. Do you feel like the Super Bowl winner was coming out of that game?
I'm gonna rock with the Chiefs, but at this point, not to foreshadow and talk about the future, I got Chiefs Rams. That's my dream matchup at this point. I think I said that before.
That's what I was saying. I was like, when we were watching that game,
but I can see the Rams winning. No, that's what I'm saying. Like I just can't say yes. Like I want to say yes, Chiefs, and I think I had the Chiefs coming in, but I like the way the Rams are built, top to bottom.
No, I agree. Let me ask you this: does Tampa come back on Pat?
Does Tampa come back on Pat? What you mean? Tampa's out.
When it was 27, no, I'm saying when it was 27-6 in the playoff game when the Rams were up, does Tom come back on the Patrick Mahomes team? This is a close game. That's all I think we're talking about Tom. I was like, I don't believe.
I believe Tom might have been able to come back a little bit and make it interesting, but I don't believe Pat's offense would have stalled out that many times as Stafford and his crew did. And it really wasn't Stafford's fault. I believe Kupp had a fumble, Akers had a fumble on the one or on the goal line. I believe
4 turnovers.
Yeah, so and none of them was Stafford's fault. So, but yeah, I believe Pat would have been able to extend the lead or keep his foot on the pedal for sure.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm not my dream Super Bowl with you right now. Obviously, it's Chiefs Rams. I honestly think that's probably what we're gonna get. But in my opinion, I feel like the Chiefs is gonna run. I don't see any team slowing them down. I think this is the best. It is funny because this is the best Pat I think we've seen, and that's scary. So,
what I will say before we move on, we can move on to the next point. Is next week, you know how you always talk about Andy and his teams being, slightly more finessed and physical. And what do we say about how his teams get start off in the playoffs? Usually slow, right? Especially that first quarter for the Chiefs. And then same thing for my Eagles under Andy. They cannot bullshit and get off to a slow start versus the Bengals. They cannot do it. They cannot. It can get ugly. It can get ugly, and it can get ugly fast. The Chiefs got to show up, and they got to show up early next week. That's all I'm saying.
I agree, and know what the difference to me prior Andy Reid teams is Patrick Mahomes. Like we said, he's the we're not coming out like that.
Facts.
And I really feel like this team has not forgot that Super Bowl loss. Like they're in fuck you mode. Facts. So they're probably like, man, I hope Tampa. There's probably room for Tampa to get back.
Mm-hmm.
So now let's move on. Now the game was, that game right there was just to my second favorite game of the weekend, Packers, Niners. And I'm watching the game. We all have different takes. We're going to talk about A-Rod in a second. But all I kept thinking was Kyle beats the shit out of all his former coaches. If he's playing Sean or Matt, they don't got a shot. What's your thoughts with that? I'm feeling like, not saying Kyle's Nick Saban, but that's what it's starting to look like.
Yeah, you got that Nick Saban, Belichick tree dynamic going on where he's beating the hell out of his proteges. I agree, man. I said the same thing coming into this matchup. That was one of the things I was worried about. I definitely knew how bad the Niners special teams was coming in. because I heard about it all last week going into the Cowboys matchup. I did not know the Packers' special teams was even worse than the Niners' special teams. So it's crazy that the game came down to a special teams play like that. I did feel bad for my boy A-Rod. Let me stay with the Niners for a second. We'll go to A-Rod in a minute. I like the way Kyle came out initially, but Jimmy's just not it, bro. Jimmy, I've been saying for the longest, Jimmy's a winner. He gets it done. But, oh, my God, they should have lost that game, bro. They really should have lost that game. The Niners should have not won that game with Jimmy as the quarterback. It's games like this where he gets away with a W, or in a few weeks, I'm going to be on this motherfucker arguing with you about he's a winner. But when you watch the game, it's like, nah, bro, like that performance, it wasn't. And I said the same thing a couple years ago when they beat A-Rod in the NFC Championship when he had 7 fucking pass attempts. I was like, I didn't give him no credit. I think we talked about it on the pod, and I was like, man, you got to give all that credit to Mostert, the run game, and Shanahan. Like, motherfucker handed the ball off all game. What did you do to affect the game? They took the ball out of your hands. And that's what I believe Variable. We'll talk about that later too. That's why I believe Mike Variable went wrong. The Tennessee's Titans head coach. He put the ball in his quarterback hands when his quarterback is similar to Jimmy Garoppolo. He should have been taking the ball out of his hands. Like, what are you doing, Zay? Everybody knows Derrick Henry's coming back. Sorry to get off tangent here, but everybody knows Derrick Henry's coming back. In the first play of the game, you want to come out and get cute and throw the fucking ball? Like, what are you doing? I'm sorry. Go, get back to Jimmy. I'm sorry. I was just saying that to say, try to draw a comparison between Jimmy and Tannehill.
No, I agree with you on that, and I can answer that question on the Tennessee Titans next. But I think with the Jimmy G, I need to start comparing Jimmy G. He's like Robert Ory, right? He got all these rings, but we don't talk to him about a great. Right, I
don't even want to say that though, because Horry made some big shots and played his role at least though. Like, Horry made some big shots.
And Jimmy G played his role. Don't fuck it up.
True,
even though he did fuck up with that red zone pick. But again, we can
that red zone pick was awful. Sorry, Zach. Go ahead.
No, you're right, and we can go back and forth amount. Is winning a quarterback stat. It is, but the thing with football, why it's better, one of the best sports ever, it's not a scoreboard box score game, right? You can look at the box score all day and it's not going to tell you the picture. You can have 500 yards passing and 3 screens for 80 yards. I believe with Jimmy G, you guys just compare him to the other quarterbacks. To me, Jimmy G is the modern day Trent Dilfer. Trent Dilfer was on loaded Baltimore teams. His job was don't fuck up. Give the ball to Jamal Murray, pass Shannon Sharp over the middle. Don't you fuck up. That's it. Okay, Ray Lewis and the boys are going to take care of it. And so I think that's where we're at with Jimmy G. He has a loaded defense. I mean, the both Super Bowl runs, loaded defense. That's without question. Run game, all blue chip players around him, and Debo and Kittle, best left tackle in football. He has everything perfect around him. And that's what he is. And to me, he's just the modern day game manager. And every decade we have a team like that, right? We had the Baltimore Ravens. We had the Giants. And to me, all I'm thinking of this Niner team is like, hey, this is the modern day Giant team, right? We don't talk of Tom Coughlin as an all-time great coach. He has 2 Super Bowl rings. And one of those both came against Tom, and one came against the 16-0 Patriots. So I just look at Jimmy G. He's your modern day, I guess, closest thing we have to Eli Manning. Because remember, Eli Manning, 15 seasons, 5 of those were winning, 10 were losing. So we don't talk about Eli as a great. We don't say, oh, Eli's a winner. He showed up in the playoffs, made a couple throws, but was led by pass rush teams. And that's what my whole opinion on Jimmy G is. He's your modern day Eli Manning. If you have a loaded defense and run game, Jimmy G could get you to the playoffs managing. That's my thoughts. And again, you got to have a coach for it too.
Facts. Let's talk about Damico a little bit here, Zay. Damico Ryans, man. The young DC for the San Francisco 49ers. I believe he called a beautiful, masterful game on defense. But I sat back and I started thinking, because I'm watching the game. I love the way they ended up defending Devontae for the most part. He had 11 targets, 9 catches, 90 yards. Shit, you get 11 targets, you should catch at least 8, 9 balls. So, but they, for the most part, as far as why I said I like the way they defended him, it reminded me of last week as far as how they defended the Cowboys dominant receiving core as far as keep everything in front of us, man. We about to allow this dominant front seven, front four with Bosa and the crew and Armstead, and let Warner and the crew stop the run and get after these guys. I sat back and I was thinking, what's really a young DC, or really any DC, but specifically a young DC's best friend, Zay?
Pass rusher.
Come on. And not just necessarily a pass rusher, a dominant front four. If you got a dominant front four, Zay, especially if you're a young DC, let them boys go to work up front. You can do everything you want on the back end with coverage. You can mix up coverage. You can drop a linebacker here or there. You can do whatever you want on the back end. Disguise it. You can double one side, roll coverage the other way. You can do whatever when you got a dominant front four, where you don't got to sacrifice somebody on the front level or first level and drop them in the coverage or whatnot. Or a young DC needs a elite front four. That's what Damico got. That's why his defense is balling out right now.
No, I agree. And also I think Damico is a young genius. I mean, obviously he was one of the smartest football players when he played. How fast he got to become a defensive coordinator. And to me, I mean, this might be a bold statement. I think he's done a better job with his defense than Robert Saleh because the difference was Robert Saleh had Richard Sherman. He at least had one DB he could depend on. And Damico doesn't. Now, again, he's has a great front seven and two really good safeties and a top 5 safety in Jimmy Ward. So I think he's doing an amazing job. And to me, he's a young genius right now in the game. And for some reason, I hate how we only use genius with offensive play callers, when to me it's harder than ever to be a good DC in this game. So shout out to Damico. And I want to give Kyle credit. He knows how to put together a fucking staff. I'll give him credit there. I mean, he's going to have back-to-back DCs that are head coaches. Damico will be a head coach, and not this year, next year. That's a fact.
That speaks to his tree, man. Kyle's tree about to be ridiculous in the next few years. When we look back on it, he got a nice little tree right now growing up.
And I want to last point on this game before we move on, and this is about Aaron Rodgers. Has his legacy took a hit?
Most definitely. As far as the talent is there, man. At the end of the day, it's undeniable. You can't argue A-Rod's talent. But with that type of talent, you would just expect more. At the end of the day, you just expect more. I'm sorry, like more than one ring, at least for me. Like before, I heard a playmaker was talking about this yesterday, Michael Irvin. He was like, before, 1 or 2, that was fine. That's all you really needed, because Joe led the way with 4. He was like, Brady done set a new benchmark with 8. Or is it 7?
7, yeah.
Brady,
the left
7,
to a new team and got one.
Exactly. So he was like, 1 and 2 ain't gonna cut it no more. He was like, A-Rod definitely need to get another one. That's without question, just to be in the same space up there with those guys, the Joes and the Bradys. But he was like, but he really need to get a few. But where I do see where he could just immediately step in that same rare air territory with Brady is if he goes to another team and win one right away. If I'm talking about first year, he steps into a new situation, because I believe that one will count for about 2.
Yeah,
that's just my thinking on it.
I'm gonna say this. To me, A-Rod, now we know who he is. I'm gonna drop a stat. Brett Favre is 12-0 in the playoffs at home. Aaron Rodgers is 7-7. And now, and to me, in those games, he hasn't performed well at all. Right? He missed Devontae Adams for a touchdown, and also missed a guy wide open last game, position to win. We're debating the same thing last year on a 4th with a 3rd down, run or make a throw. Again, when it's nut cutting time, I always say this: Aaron Rodgers doesn't have a moment. What is the moment that you remember Aaron Rodgers? He has crazy regular. No.
That one versus the Cowboys.
I don't remember that. But what's a moment?
Yes, you do. Zach, stop it. When he rolled left and threw that nice tight spiral ball to the sideline to Jared Cook, and they hit the Mason Crosby hit the field goal.
You're right.
That was a rope. That's the only one though. That was about the only one. For sure.
He's 37, going to turn 38, and it's not like we had.
That's not enough.
Patrick Mahomes has already surpassed Aaron Rodgers. Already surpassed. He's never not played in the AFC Championship in his career, right? And Aaron Rodgers is like, bro, you have weapons. You have your only Super Bowl. I'm giving that Super Bowl to C. Wood. That was his team. I'm going to say that Super Bowl, that was C. Wood's team. And so without the perfect roster, you don't get it done. And now I'm starting to look at Aaron Rodgers, just a regular season guy. To me, he's starting getting that, again, without that Super Bowl, I'm looking at like, is this James Harden at quarterback? Just an amazing skill player. Because look, Aaron, yes, when you came into the league and you were humming, when you winning MVPs, because a 4-time MVP guy, because what he done in the regular season. To me, it's starting to look like A-Rod, you're just like a front running type of quarterback, and your arm talent is amazing when you came in. But Josh Allen has arm talent. Patrick Mahomes has arm talent. We got a lot of guys who their arm are going to surpass that A-Rod arm. We're going to just forget about it. So right now, to me, A-Rod, to your point, he has to get a second Super Bowl. Has to. Or he's just going to, be around that top, I think he's a top 5 quarterback, but he won't be in that Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Montana category.
And, it's tough because when you look at the landscape out there, there's not really a lot of teams out there that's built, at least currently constructed, better than his Packers team right now. But some things might change with contracts and everything. I know a lot of guys' contracts is up for the Packers. My last point on Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers. Well, one stat I will give him that's in his favor, Zay, as far as with all these playoff losses, I believe he's the only quarterback with a minimum of 10 playoff starts where his team has given up at least his defense has given up at least over 30 points. So in at least 10 playoff games or more out of his 20 or however many he's played total, they've given up at least 30. I think over 36 like 3 or 4 times, 40 twice. Last night or the other night that didn't play into a factor much because the defense definitely showed up and showed out. At the end of the day, A-Rod, you got to get more than 10 points in a home playoff game, bro. I'm sorry.
At the end of the day, and I agree. Right, hey, you don't have a best defense. Patrick Mahomes has never played with a top 12 defense. In his career, he's never had a top 12 defense. His best defense was ranked 15th. So again, A-Rod, shit ain't going to be perfect.
Hell, Pat just did what he did with 13 seconds versus the number 1 defense.
Exactly. That's the proof.
We're going to talk about DCs in a second, but forget it. I'm gonna hold on to that thought. It was about the Bills defense, but I was going to say that, that was the best pass defense from the Bills this year since that Revis Cromartie Jets team.
Shit,
I did not know that. I did not know that.
And it was getting picked apart.
Come on.
Yeah, no, because the greats get it done. When we sit back and we debate where you're the barbershop, barbecue with your friends on the phone, you're talking about the great moments. And to me, when we sit back, Peyton versus Tom. We're gonna talk about Pat Mahomes' great moments. We're already talking about Josh, right? And those moments are made in the playoffs. In the football, legends are not made in the regular season. In the NBA, legends are made in the regular season, not in football. And so to me, it's like, A-Rod, you have that moment with Jared Cook, but you've been playing for 17 years, bro. That's all you got? So, but that's my last point on that. A-Rod has to win in the Super Bowl, or he's going to be around that 5th, 6th quarterback spot, and it's going to be really hard to jump, especially with these young quarterbacks. Let's hop on to this next topic real quick. And what stuck out most to you from this weekend when building a team? If you're a GM and your team didn't make the playoffs, what stuck out most? Like, hey, what do I really need to make noise consistently in the playoffs?
That's a good question. You know who it just came to my mind because I just seen the script earlier. You know who I envision, what face I seen when you just asked me that question, Zay? And after I think back on this past weekend's games.
Who?
He's a football guy, all-timer, John Madden.
RIP.
And specifically why? You know why? Where does he say the game is always started at and played at?
Line of scrimmage.
In the trenches, man. Hey, at the end of the day, if you ain't got the O-line, a la Joe Burrow, if you ain't got a D-line, a la the Rams, Sue and the boys with Vita Vea with the Bucks, hey, it starts up front, bro. It starts up front. Wrecking havoc, messing up teams' momentums, drives, stalling out drives, everything. It starts up front. If you got a dominant O-line, if you got a dominant pass rusher, it's going to keep you in the game every single time. Like what I just said earlier about the casual fan can't even tell you a Niners cornerback, but that front seven is elite. That D-line is elite. It helps that young DC out that can do some things on the back end with coverage. It starts up front. So if I'm building a team, I believe that was Tom. What's the Giants' old head coach that coached Eli?
Tom Coughlin.
That was his formula as far as we building from inside out.
So he did in Jacksonville when he went to the AFC Championship. Yeah.
Exactly. So, and that's what same thing with the Giants when he had OC, Strahan, and Tuck in the boys. So, if I'm a GM, that's the first thing I'm looking for. If I'm building my team up, trying to give me an elite left, right tackle, and give me a serious pass rusher.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I looked at it in 3 parts. If I'm a GM, I'm sitting here. Let's just say I'm the Jacksonville Jaguars, right? Fresh restart. There was 3 things that stuck out to me. 3 things. Number 1. You have to have an alpha on the outside. You have to have an alpha at receiver. You have to. Number 2.
Sorry to cut you off. It's crazy because a couple years ago, and I think on the pod, we used to say like how championship teams, like it seemed like, I think we used to talk about Odell in that way as far as like, you don't really need a superstar number 1 to win a Super Bowl. Like that's what we were saying throughout that Patriots dynasty because they never really had a dynamic number 1.
I know.
It's crazy how the game changed now is basically what I'm saying.
No, exactly. And I think it's changed because defensive backs are better.
Yeah.
That's the end of the day. It is. That like more guys are playing DBs, more guys have technique, more guys can run. You got taller DBs with long arms, suffocating receivers. You know, you can't just have Wes Welker running slants all day. So
you said 1 elite quarterback, and you said, or elite receiver, and you said 2 who?
Yeah, to me it was an alpha in offense, a quarterback, and to me it was an O-line or D-line. One of those have to be dominant, either a very dominant O-line or a very dominant D-line. And to me, a quarterback. You got to. Now you're probably, the Niners are there. But to me, the Niners are the outlier because they have the most complete roster left in playoffs, right? Most complete. And then to me as a coach, every coach left, I would just say from this weekend and up, we would consider good coaches, right? And to me, if you have to have all those things to be competitive and be on championship weekend, an alpha receiver, an O-line or D-line, but that's dominant. If you have both, that's better. And you got to have a QB and coach. And to me, you've seen every team that had that. I mean, that's why every game was close to me. Every team had a quarterback. Every team had a pass rusher. Every team had an alpha on the outside. And every team had a competitive coach. And right now, if you don't have that, right, you got to, again, let's just say the Vikings, you got to build a loaded roster. You can't have Kirk Cousins. If right now, I literally watched this weekend, I said the Raiders have to move on from Derek Carr. That's what I watched this weekend. I was like, he's not. Now, he lost a close game to the Bengals. Yeah, he did. He's not going to consistently. I watched that Chiefs game. He ain't in that game. That Packer game in the cold. Oh fuck no. So yeah, I'm not with that. I think a lot of changes are going to happen this offseason because at times are changing the NFL. You got to have blue chip players. You got to have a quarterback. So let's move on to the next topic. And actually, I want to get to this one first because this one I've been meaning to talk about. It's the questionable decision a few coaches have made this weekend. Let's first start with Todd Bowles. 7-man blitz when all they need is a field goal to win. What's your thoughts there?
Yeah, man. I like getting pressure or at least just being in guys' faces. You know, we're gonna talk about Frazier in a second. I would rather actually do it the Todd Bowles way, put pressure in his face, make a guy make the correct, perfect throw right now under pressure. And that's really what he did because that was really just a clear out route. I believe Cup was running the deep crossover so they can get the dig open behind that. And that's who I believe they was trying to hit so they can just set up some get some more field position to get some more yards to get in field position for a field goal. But he ended up seeing Cup wide open one-on-one with a safety. And I believe Winfield didn't do a bad job initially. I believe he thought he was going to set it down because, like I said, if I'm a defensive back, I know we sending a bomb blitz or we sending more than they can handle. I'm thinking the ball coming out now, too, and we're getting all short routes. So he was sitting on it, and it looked like Cup was about to break down. Shit, Cup kept running right by the boy. He caught up to his ass and caught him to save the touchdown. But it was just a great play call on the offense, and I believe Matthew Stafford made a great throw. But the reason why I ain't so mad at or why I'm not totally mad at Todd Bowles, because he live and die with who he really is at the end of the day. Todd Bowles has always been a man team, a man guy. And he loves the blitz. He loves to bring pressure. Well, that's what also did them in this past weekend as far as all year. Dan Orlowski, I heard Dan Orlowski, excuse me, because we all know he's a Stafford guy, say Matthew Stafford is number 1 versus man coverage and he's number 1 versus the blitz. And he ate them up on both on that last play right there.
And that's to me where the mistake is. And that's like an old man mentality, stubborn ego. That's just who I am. I blitz. We lost. And to me right there, you got to know who you're playing, right? You've been playing Patrick Mahomes, done the same thing. And right, obviously they beat them. But in that moment, I don't see, you can't do that to me in that moment. Leave your safe. And again, you're leaving. That means in that moment, you say, you know what? I think we're going to Matthew Stafford before he throws the ball to either Odell or Cooper Kupp. You know, and all game, you weren't stopping those guys. They always made the big play when they had to. And to me, that was a terrible call, and that's what lost him the game.
I believe the blitz. Yeah, I believe he could have called the blitz a different way, possibly, because at the end of the day, you can't bring the guy off of Cooper Kupp, the guy that's been killing you all day. They sent the slot blitz. Like, you got to have at least two on him.
And the guy that blitzed him, they didn't even give him a chip or nothing.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, get some type of hands on. And then that leads into my point with Frazier. I'm extremely upset at how his prevent defense played out the end of that regulation game before they went into OT. Zay, you correct me if I'm wrong. As a DB, especially a safety, what I hated more than anything was letting the receiver get free releases. I hated when my linebackers, my up backs, my nickel backs didn't get hands and reroute too, because we're already off at 10 to 12 yards as a safety, and we're backpedaling right now. That's all that speed coming at our face with no reroutes, no type of hands on. I hate this shit. In return, I heard the receivers love free releases as far as when you back off and give them cushion. Correct?
Yes, because you run as fast as you can.
Like, so come on, bro. Like, what are you doing? Across the board this past weekend, I was extremely frustrated with prevent defense as far as guys playing super lax and backing off. As far as how I would like to play prevent defense, I'm pressing up. We don't have to bring a blitz every time. I would bring a blitz here and there sometimes, but I would prefer to still press up on the outside. At the end of the day, press is to mess up the timing of the receiver and the quarterback. Messing up the timing between the receiver and the quarterback. Well, why wouldn't you do the same thing if you know they got to get downfield for a shot ball? So keep pressure in his face, reroute, and keep the safeties deep. Why are we having the corners off 15, 20 yards just as deep as what the safeties would be? Like, that makes no sense to me.
No, I agree with you. And there, to me, the Bills is twofold their fault. Number one, Sean McDermott, why didn't you squib kick? You allowed them one play. Simply by squib kicking it. You allowed them only one play. And then Leslie Frazier could just sit back and prevent. Literally, if he had the one play, his defense did not matter. He could have called. He would have been an idiot to call blitz, but just sit back and prevent. And then the game's going. The Bills win that game, and that was a part that was crazy to me. And as soon as there's 13 seconds left, and they kicked the ball off, I was like, oh, they might lose. I literally thought they were going to win until they kicked the ball off. I was like, you just gave Pat 2 plays. Yeah. 13 seconds is 2 plays. So that's where I get Sean McDermott. Like, hey, you did your thing that game except for not squib kicking it. Now, I would have been like, hey, if Tyreek Hill's back there, maybe not. But he wasn't. So that was a huge mistake. And I think put Leslie Frazier, again, not trying to make up for his mistake, he wouldn't have had to do all that. It would have been one play. It would have been about 7 seconds left, play prevent, and they literally would have to get one play. One play would have got to the 40-yard line. Literally one play. So
yeah, it was crazy. I know you got to get out of here, Zay. Last one. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Joe Burrow beats the Chiefs. Do we have to start talking the Joe Burrow legacy with the Bengals?
I believe we already got to, just for him. It's a simple fact of this being his second full year in the NFL last year, really his first full year, but the second year being in the NFL last year, he got hurt, and he's already in the AFC Championship game for a known losing franchise. He's putting them back on the map. I already believe he's in that conversation with the Herberts, Burrows, and Josh Allens and Pat. If he wins this game, he's cementing himself right in the thick of things. Like, he might be number 2 behind Pat if he wins this one.
I agree with you. I kind of touched on this last week. I was like, do we got to put him in that Pat conversation? I think we do as far as young quarterbacks, and he definitely. I think right now there's still a little bit of debate, Justin Herbert, him. I think he definitely surpassed him because he has that it factor, right?
And he got that cool and calmness under pressure, bro.
He's Tom, bro. He's literally baby Tom. That's why he's
Joe
baby
cool.
Tom. Yeah,
Joe
so
cool. You gotta get out of here, brother.
It is my last point on Joe Burrow. He's the example of why I hate the Twitter guys, the scout guys on TV say he's just in the wrong situation. If he's in a better situation, no, the cream always rises to the top. And I believe whatever situation you're in and you stick out, you stand out, that's because you are an elite player. And to me, those guys that, hey, they could have been in a better spot, all they would have turned into maybe a Derek Carr, maybe a Kirk Cousins. but they weren't going to be a top 5 guy. And that's always my point when saying right situation. What do you mean right situation? They're top 5? No, top 5 going to stick out if you're with the Lions or you with the Niners. It doesn't matter. So that's my point on Joe. Joe is a culture changer. Shit, if the Lions had him, I think he would have impacted the same thing there. So.
Yeah, all good to go. Check us out this Friday, y'all, on Instagram Live. We'll give y'all our championship picks.
Yes, sir. 3 games left, man. Then a long off season.
All right, well.
All right.
We play for keeps, Cuddy. You ain't heard about the huddle fire with no with D-Lane. We tryna get it off the muscle. Walters caught the pick and ran it back without a tussle. Blow the whistle, coach is time to get back to the huddle.